Hello and welcome to the news at 7 tonight. A warning that the early release of prisoners is being put ahead of interests of public safety. It comes from a charity which says it also raises anxiety among victims with the early release programme to begin next week. And as a former shinty player speaks about living with MND and his fears for his family's future, we find out what support is available. Hello, I'm Amy Irons and welcome to a shorter edition of Friday's programme. Thanks for being with us tonight. We are going to start with the claim from a Scottish charity which says cutting prison overcrowding is being put ahead of victims and public safety. Up to 390 prisoners could be released under the latest plans to cut the number of people in Scotland's jails. They'll all have less than half their sentences left, and people convicted of sexual crimes or domestic abuse won't qualify. But Victim Support Scotland says the plan could erode trust in the justice system. Earlier, I spoke to the charity's chief executive, Kate Wallace, and asked her what she's hearing from victims of crime.
Victims, we know, are really concerned that they are not going to know in advance if a prisoner's been released in their case. Many can't remember if they've signed up to the victim notification scheme or not. And we think it's really unfortunate that the government took an approach which is that they wouldn't tell people proactively if the prisoner in their case has been released, but victims themselves would, the onus is on them to come forward. Victims just feel totally deprioritised in that decision-making process. They feel as though their safety and public safety is being deprioritised because of the overpopulation in prisons. And the big concern that they've got is that these release schemes seem not to work. We saw in the summer there that there was a high number of prisoners who were released on the early release programme during the summer that were reconvicted and actually gone back into prison really pretty quickly after they had got out, and then in some cases before the end of their original sentence. So that created more victims, in our view, needlessly.
So you're obviously encouraging people to sign up for this victim notification scheme, but that, as you mentioned, obviously places a lot of onus on the victims actually signing up to that. Is there a better way that this could be managed, in your opinion?
It does need a significant overhaul. It's a very complicated scheme, very convoluted, built on legislation. In some cases, it's 20 years old. It's not fit for purpose in a modern Scotland. Absolutely invest in and have a range of appropriate evidence-based interventions that are going to help reduce reoffending. But we need to be realistic that prison at times is the only option that there is to keep people safe.
Kate Wallace from Victim Support Scotland, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, the Scottish Government says the prison population here has risen significantly, in line with trends elsewhere in the UK. It also says it will work closely with victim support organisations to ensure that accessible information is available to victims on the change to the release point for short-term prisoners. Now, a college in Aberdeen is carrying out an audit following a potential issue with the checking of results and assessments completed by some of its students. Louise Hosey has the story for us.
North East Scotland College says it's undertaking an audit after being made aware of a potential issue related to the verification of results and assessment of some units of coursework completed by engineering students. The college said the students have been based here at the Aberdeen Altons campus in the 2023-24 academic year. It says that any individual student who is found to have been affected will be contacted directly and supported to ensure remedial action is taken. We've also been in touch with Scotland's exams body, the Scottish Qualifications Authority. It said it is aware of an ongoing audit regarding engineering students' coursework and that it wouldn't be providing any further comment while the college carries out its inquiries.
Thanks to Louise Hosey for that. Let's get a roundup then of some of the stories on the BBC News app in Scotland today. A teenager has been charged with murder following the death of a man in Arbroath. Crocknickle, who's 19, is accused of killing the man in town on Tuesday evening. People in Angus have been warned over a scam involving fraudsters pretending to be NHS workers. The cold callers are using fake ID to try to access people's homes. The estate of legendary mountaineer and inventor Hamish McInnes has been donated to the Scottish Mountaineering Trust charity. He died 5 years ago at the age of 90. For more information on these stories, just scan the QR code on screen now. It'll take you right to the BBC Scotland News app. There is more for you there, including the latest evidence from an employment tribunal in Dundee in the aftermath of an incident between a nurse and a transgender doctor in a female changing room. The tribunal is now adjourned until July. A former top shinty player diagnosed with motor neuron disease 3 years ago says he fears how his family will support themselves in the future. MND is a rare, uncurable neurological condition which affects the brain and nerves that can significantly shorten life expectancy. Lachlan Campbell, who's from Speenbridge near Fort William and has 4 children, was forced to give up his job as a joiner after it became difficult for him to continue working.
I follow quite regular at work, and it's a matter of time before I really hurt myself.
If you can't keep your bills paid, then what happens then? You know, do you potentially have the threat of losing your home as well, on top of your husband not being well? And there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, it was sporting heroes like the late Doddy Weir who in recent years brought MND into the public eye. Earlier I spoke to Angela Harris from the charity MND Scotland about the impact that a diagnosis can have on an individual and their families.
Whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, whether it's practical needs. It may be that someone has to give up work to be the main carer. There are lots of long-term impacts on the whole family.
For somebody in their 40s to be receiving a diagnosis like this so young, when they've got a family and having to give up work, that's a huge financial burden on top of the emotional burden too.
It really is. And I think we know that in Scotland, there's probably about 20% of the people that are diagnosed that are under the age of 60, that are potentially working age. Now, that's going to have a massive impact on someone, again, where we've gone from a family that potentially has 2 incomes coming in to surviving on benefits. I know we try and support MND Scotland as much as we can within that.
Is there more support that is needed for people?
One of the biggest single issues when you have an MND diagnosis is time. To be honest, it's the time that you don't have. So if you're looking for adaptations for your home, for instance, you can't wait 6 months or a year for the local council to decide. If you're being assessed for something, you don't want to be waiting 3 months. But by the time you're assessed, you actually need assessing again. So time is the real critical factor. No one seems to take that into account, that time isn't there and that actually the need is really urgent.
And Angela, there's still no cure. I know research isn't your background, but are we any closer to finding a cure, do you think?
Everyone is so focused on this. And you know, in Scotland, we have our clinical SMART trial, our MND trial. Everyone is focusing their time, their energy on doing this. But at the moment, Riluzole is the only treatment that's available, and we don't have a cure.
Angela Harris from MND Scotland there talking to me earlier. Time for a look then at the day's sporting news, and the Rangers manager Philippe Clement says he was devastated about being knocked out of the Scottish Cup by Queen's Park, but believes he's still got the backing of the club's hierarchy. The Belgian wants to see a reaction from his players in the league away to Hearts on Sunday to ensure Rangers start to move on from that cup elimination.
Of course, I was also frustrated, devastated after the result. I was frustrated to be on the sideline. During that game, you get that amount of chances, and one moment you want to run on the field to shoot the ball yourself into the goal. But that's not my job to do. So it's about picking up the team again.
Hearts boss Neil Critchley says his side have showed resilience and grit in recent weeks, but warns nothing has been achieved yet. They're in the quarter-finals of the Scottish Cup and on the cusp of the top 6, and he wants his side to relish the challenge of taking on Rangers.
My target is just to improve the team and keep improve the players, and the results and the performances or the results take care of themselves. So we have spoken, 8 games to go before the split, and our aim now. We want to be in the top 6. We want to finish as high as we possibly can. But you know, as quickly as things can go right, things can go wrong. So we're not getting carried away.
Aberdeen manager Jimmy Tulin has confirmed goalkeeper Dimitar Mitov will be back in the squad for tomorrow's visit to Dundee. Meanwhile, Severt Hilton-Nilsson, who was stand-in captain in the 3-0 Scottish Cup victory against Dunfermline, hopes the Dons can be refined by sticking together despite 14 league games without a win.
In my head, when things are going bad, you still have to see the things that are going good, you know, not to be get into a very negative spiral.
Time now for the weather with our Callum, and you're in the Valentine's mood there, Callum, but is there love in the air?
Oh no, just the only date I'm going to have tonight is the Medjool variety. It'll be sweet enough for me though. What more could you want? A lovely cloud-shaped heart in the sky there. But our long-standing relationship with the cloud's going to go on for several days after a brief break-up today for some of us. Here's this front in the south-west. It's bringing some drizzly rain, gusty winds from Stranraer up to Barra, but as it works its way inland, encounters the cold air, maybe a wee dusting for Valentine's night for some of us, taking us into tomorrow morning. Cold, especially in the north where it's clearest, could be down to -5, -6 for a few spots, 0 to 3 further south. Into tomorrow, the last vestiges of that front will really just stagnate overhead. Extensive clouds, still some residual light rain and drizzle in a few places. Most areas dry. On the uplands there will still be some snow flurries. If you want the best of the sunshine, head for the northwest Highland sky, the Western Isles, lovely. Wherever you are though, cold. Sunday, rinse and repeat. Best in the northwest. For most of us, it's cold, grey, breezy, and you might get a wee skim of drizzle out of that. That's you up to date on the weather front.
Callum, you've certainly made my day, and I'm sure everyone else at home as well. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jamie.
And thanks to you for joining us as well. There is live SWPL action on the way. Enjoy that and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.